This video is brought to you by my friends over at truefire.com. Check out the link in the description and use the code CLAY30 to get 30% off your order. Thanks again to Truefire. Hello everybody, Levi Clay here, and I want to welcome you back to another episode of Mandates with Guitar Greats. Now, for those of you that are new to the channel, you probably don't know this, but I have a huge passion for country music. I play a lot of country music myself, got country music books out, so I've been listening to the greats of country guitar for most of my playing life. I'm interested in lots of different styles, and there's one player in particular who I haven't had the chance to do a video like this with, and his influence on the country scene and the rock scene is kind of undeniable because he's that blend of everything cool about country music, but also everything cool about things like Van Halen. So I want to say a huge thank you and a welcome to Mr. Johnny Hiland. Let me bring you up, Johnny. Where are you?
Well, hello, brother Levi. How are you, bud?
I'm doing good, mate. And yourself?
I am fantastic, bud, and I appreciate you having me on today.
No, it's an absolute pleasure. As I said, we've been talking about doing this for... when I checked our messages, it's been years. I said I should have you on. But global pandemics will do that, won't they?
They sure will, brother, for sure.
Yeah. So why don't you tell everybody a little bit about yourself? You are Johnny Hiland. You are living. Tell us a little bit. Yeah.
Well, actually, man, it's I grew up in the state of Maine, which is way up north on the eastern side of the United States, and not a lot of country guitar players up there. Although country music and bluegrass music is pretty huge up that way. And but I grew up loving Ricky Skaggs and had a little family band called the 3Js, and we won Talent America competition in New York City and went on to do bluegrass stuff for the whole first part of my life. And then started my electric guitar career when I was 12. My dad got me my first electric guitar after seeing Ricky Skaggs play. And played in local bands from the age of 12 up till I went on to college and played through, in the band during that time as well. But in 1996, I left college and headed to Nashville. And like everybody else, man, any country music fan, you want to play the Grand Ole Opry. You want to, you want to get to play on big records. You have all kinds of dreams and things that you want to accomplish. But yet, I moved to Nashville with kind of an open mind, man, not really knowing exactly what I wanted to do in my career. Just wanted anything and everything guitar that I could get my hands on. And so, to be honest with you, I played, local honky tonks in Nashville on Lower Broadway for the first 3 or 4 years. And of course, got asked to play Primetime Country by Gary Chapman, which enabled me to play the Ryman Auditorium for the first time before I did his TV show, so we had something to talk about because I didn't have a record deal or anything.
Sure.
But I got a stand-in O at the Ryman, which is the Mother Church of Country Music, and doing That's All Right Mama on a gospel show. And, of course, the first thing I did, Levi, was walk out, brother, and being legally blind, I dropped my pick. And, oh, shit, right in the middle of a gospel show. But I did get a stand-in O, and I actually, from that appearance, got, after Primetime Country, got asked to headline the Grand Ole Opry for the first time. And so really my career as a guitar artist started, probably in, 1999, 2000, somewhere in there. And yet still had no idea that's what I was going to pursue.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to be a session guitar player. I wanted to do all kinds of, maybe play on the road for a big artist or whatever. I had all kinds of open-ended dreams that just really didn't know which, how they were going to flourish.
Sure.
And so after the Grand Ole Opry, man, I met my first manager, and the next thing I know, I'm on Fender's doorstep asking for an endorsement and trying to build my career, And then shortly after that, I signed with Steve Vai and went on Favored Nations and started writing my first record. And
hey, you've done a lot of things.
I've done, man, I've been so blessed over the years, brother. But it's amazing, though, because Nashville in the 90s was incredible. I mean, if you were a country music fan, you went downtown with a cowboy hat and boots on, and you knew how to play George Jones and Merle Haggard, Waylon Jennings, and you knew, even Ray Price stuff, all the early country stuff. You had to know it.
Yeah.
If you were not good, you didn't get on the stage, man. I mean, it was just as simple as that. And I found that over the years, obviously, country music, like every other genre, has evolved. And to be honest with you, man, it started getting more poppy and more rock-edged. And so it was funny, though, because in my career, signing to Steve Vai, of course, instead of a Nashville label, I was living, a dream in both realms. I was going out and sitting in with Vi and playing G3 shows and going out on the road with George Clinton and P-Funk for a few dates, and then going home and playing on a Toby Keith record, or a Ricky Skaggs record. So, I mean, I was living the dream on both sides of the fence, man, when it came to rock and country, as you talked about.
Yeah, well, that's probably a really good place to start talking about this stuff, right? So, for those unfamiliar with your playing, you are a ridiculously good rock guitar player as well as being a ridiculously great country player. I'd be interested to talk about your influences, because you mentioned growing up being a bluegrass musician, and like, it seems silly to state the obvious. You and I know this, but a lot of people listening to this won't know this. Bluegrass, it's acoustic music. Like, as soon as you start bringing drums into the equation, it stops being bluegrass. It starts to become a new thing. And all right, you do more drums, but traditionally speaking, it's acoustic music. So you will have grown up being an acoustic musician. You said you didn't pick up electric guitar until later. Who were some of those early influences, and when did the more electric influences start to come in for you as a player?
Well, I think Ricky Skaggs was really the pinnacle for me, because Ricky was, he grew up playing bluegrass music, just like Marty Stewart, who I love in country music as well.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, man, I mean, getting back to the roots of bluegrass music really, really helped define me in my chicken picking, because frankly, man, when you grow up loving Tony Rice and Flatt and Scruggs and Ralph Stanley but I think it was really, man, I mean, my dad was a journeyman pipe fitter welder for Georgia Pacific Paper Mill, and a lot of the guys in the mill had Martins and played bluegrass and stuff like that. So, and around the area I grew up in, which was Woodland, Maine, it was right on the eastern kind of tip of Maine, if you will. And so there was a lot of bluegrass festivals, folk festivals, and stuff like that. So being a child singer and multi-instrumentalist, even as an early age. I mean, by the time I was, 6, 7 years old, I was playing guitar, banjo, mandolin, and fiddle in my show.
Yeah.
And, winning contest after contest. And really, everyone kind of looked at me, Levi, as a kid going, man, he's legally blind. What's this kid going to do for his, for his entire career and his life? What's he got to look forward to? And by the grace of God, man, and the gifting of God, I started playing instruments real early on. And so then it was kind of like, oh, well, there's the answer. That's what he's going to do. However, I had a dad who was very critical. He was, he criticized everything you did. But he raised me with the mentality of, if you're going to do something, do it to the best of your ability, or don't even try it at all. If you're not going to give it your best, then just don't bother. And so it was interesting, man, because obviously I loved bluegrass music. And then heard Ricky Skaggs, on, because the Nashville Network was on TV back then, Austin City Limits.
Yeah.
And I was watching all of those shows, and loved Roy Clark, Buck Owen. But it was Ricky Skaggs was the man that really showed me you could swap over from bluegrass, or bluegrass roots, if you will, to playing electric guitar and carrying that bluegrass style over into country.
Yep.
And of course, then from Ricky Skaggs, I learned about Albert Lee and Brent Mason and, James Burton and Danny Gatton and all those guys,
Yeah, you can't live be in Nashville in the 90s and be unaware of Brent Mason, yeah.
My goodness, you're right about that, brother. And Brent and I have been friends for over 20 years, and I love him, truly. I really do. But I think really, I wasn't the kid trying to be Brent.
Absolutely.
I was actually trying to find my own voice on the guitar, and I think it was funny because, I loved Brent Mason, but I loved Albert Lee equally, and Danny Gatton as well. So it was like my country style kind of came from all three of them. And then, man, being from Maine, nobody knew what a B-bender was, right? So all the telly licks that I learned as a kid was popping all those Skaggs bender licks on a telly without a bender.
Yeah.
And so it kind of helped me create my own thing, and when I moved to Nashville, everyone was like, how are you doing all those bends? So, I mean, really, it was a blessing for me, because, when you're in Maine and you don't know, you just don't know. So you try to make it work for yourself. And, but then again, as a teenage kid and stuff, man, I grew up in the day and age of Van Halen being huge.
Yeah.
Steve Vai, well, and Levi, let's face it, bud, back in the day, I mean, Guitar Heroes were huge. So, Van Halen and Steve Vai and Joe Satriani and Yngwie Malmsteen and all those guys, they became a part of my life as much as Ricky Skaggs, Vince Gill, Steve Warner, Albert Lee, Brent Mason. So, and granted, when I first heard those bands, I was like, man, I'll never be able to play like that. I'm an old country boy, But as a kid, man, I really just wanted to branch off and play every genre of music I could, because dreaming to be a session guitar player, the first thing you need to know is I have to be able to deliver whatever a producer asked me to do.
Sure.
And so, I really wanted to jump into every genre I could and just grab onto it all.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great thing to point out, not just in your playing, but in general. I've always been interested in as many genres as I can turn my hands
Oh, brother,
to.
I'm aware. You're a beast. and I'm a huge fan of yours as well. So
Far too kind. You just want to be prepared that if somebody needs you to play a certain thing, that you can do it. So you need to be able to fire off authentic sounding country licks if necessary. You need to be able to sound like Van Halen if you need to, but you need to be able to sound like Steve Cropper if you need to. You need to know what BB King sounds like if you need to sound like BB King, because in that session world, which actually ended up not being something that was massively profitable for me, but that was what I wanted to do. You just got to do that. So what I would, to anyone watching this, try and learn as many styles as you want. I didn't grow up listening to country music, not at all. I started learning about country music as another style that I needed to know about, and I fell in love with it. And who knows where this need to learn lots of different genres will take you in your life. I don't consider myself a professional country musician, but country music is a big part of my life now. It's a big part of how I teach. It's a big part of how I make a living. And that never would have happened without that passion. So the idea of you going out and learning the rock thing is just incredible to me, because I always talk about you in the video that I plan to put up on you is going to be something, the title I haven't decided on yet, but it's going to be something along the lines of, Hillbilly Van Halen or something like that, because you've got all of that. You've got all of all of those kind of horrible stereotypes that people throw out with the term hillbilly, but you can pull off all that Van Halen stuff so authentically.
I think I was better at it when I was a kid, though, Levi.
Sure.
I loved it then, But I still.
Same.
But now here's a funny thing, though. From guitar teacher to guitar teacher,
what
has really helped me through the years is that you realize a guitar is a guitar, and when you mix genres and you start having fun, you're not thinking differently. You're just adding a different tone, or your approach is a little different. Like for me, when I'm playing Van Halen, I'm thinking of, minor pentatonic and finger tapping. And so I guess, the only difference is we country boys love major thirds and flatted sevens, and in rock, it's a little different, but it all works together. It all melds together.
Yeah.
And I think that's one thing I've loved about the instrument overall, is that you can dare to be different and find your own identity, and not really allow it to change who you are per se. I mean, I am a hillbilly, brother. I am an old country boy, but do I love to play blues? Yeah. Do I love to mix that with some Western swing chromatics? Oh yeah. and my rock playing the same. So I think it's really, looking at the guitar as a whole, though, has really, it's been just a complete joy to mix genres and to have fun with that. And so I encourage every listener out there to do that. Have fun on the guitar.
Yeah, I think of it myself as like accents. I'm not very good at accents, but some people are great at doing different accents. I'm not going to insult people by trying to do Johnny's accent, but I could try and do Johnny's accent. And to me, when I'm playing different styles of music, it's like you're pulling in accents. Or another way of thinking of it might be slang terms. I'm English. I live in Scotland, but I'm English. I use a lot of Scottish slang in my day-to-day speaking because I hear people speaking like that, and I do it. But at the same time, because I'm relatively plugged in on the country thing, I say "yarl." I say "yarl" a lot. I type the word "yarl," and every time I do, I'm like, why am I doing that? Because that felt like the right word.
Well, it's funny, man. Kimmy says when I'm pissed off is when I sound the most Mainer. And I always tell people, I have a mother and a dooryard, and I just don't have a car to park in Bar Harbor no more. So I don't talk like a Mainer much no more. But the funny thing is and not making fun of Maine. I'm so proud to be from there.
Yeah.
But yes, moving to Nashville, man, you had people that were from I think most of Nashville is all a bunch of people that just moved in from other states,
Sure.
Countries and whatnot. But everybody started talking like this here, and then all of a sudden you start realizing that Maine accent changed a little bit.
Yeah, yeah.
Then I married a Virginia girl, and then some of that started coming into play, and so now I just think I'm a hodgepodge of same thing, like you said, man. Your accent changes, and things in life change, and
sure.
Yeah. So guitar playing is a lot that way.
I'd be full of regret if I didn't use this opportunity to bring up a mutual influence of yours and mine. You've mentioned him a couple of times, but I think it's definitely fair to push his name out there again because he's such a big influence on me. And in fact, I'm going to pull this up and everybody's going to know who I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Holding up a guitar to the legally blind man is probably a bit cruel, but to everyone else,
well, you matched that Magic Dingus box pretty well, my friend. Yeah. Now, where did you acquire that guitar, Levi?
Oh, this is actually just a Mexican Fender that I had. My friend Carson Hess made the Dingus mounting plate, and I got the Bardon Electronics. So it's a Mexican road worn series. It's nothing fancy. It plays like
but
an
buddy, you
absolute dog.
Well, yeah, but you made that thing look like a Gatton guitar for sure.
Absolutely, and it feels that way. But speaking of Gatton, like obviously you're a big fan. On your self-titled record, you've got the tune Gatton to it. Take the opportunity to tell us why Danny is so fantastic, because people don't get it, do they?
Well, no, and I must admit, my love for Danny really came from his fearless attitude on the instrument. He had such a no fear mentality that, man, he could just be flying up the fretboard and you think he's just going to crash, and he never does.
Yeah.
And I thought, man, as a legally blind guy, I want to look at the fretboard in that way as well. I want to be able to not feel like, oh, gee, what if I mess up? Because you know as well as anyone, Levi, if you get on stage and you start overthinking, brother, you're done.
Yes.
Stick a fork in you, it's over. So I have been, I think Danny Gatton's whole approach in, here again, multi-genre player. I mean, he can play jazz amazing. He can play country amazing. He went on the road with Roger Miller. And then his Danny Gatton band was like big horn section kind of stuff. And so, he just, and rockabilly, my goodness, man, he's a beast. And so I think really I related to Danny in loving all different kinds of genres, but the way he played with that aggressive, go get 'em kind of attitude, man, I loved that about him. I loved that whole approach he had. And I never got to meet the man. I wished I could have.
Sure.
Of course, I've known all of Danny's band, and even some of the Fat Boys. I got to meet some of, like Dave Elliott, guys like that, and played with some of those guys before. And so I've gotten to meet a lot of wonderful people in Danny's, that were a part of Danny's life.
Yeah.
But I never got to meet the man himself.
Yeah, tragic.
It really was, man. Yeah, it was unreal. But I still love him and adore him, and I think all us Tele style players, man, need to keep Danny's legacy alive.
Absolutely. We're gonna come back to that Tele thing. We're gonna do the Tele thing in a second. I just want to mention another name because I had a relative I've constantly had viral hits with this guy. Actually, anytime I post him, people are blown away by his playing. I'm sure you're more than familiar with him. And your name came up quite a lot when I was saying nobody plays the Telecaster like this guy, Mr. Scotty Anderson.
Yo, my goodness. I'll just say this, man. First time I ever got to hear Scotty was someone, a student of mine, had dropped me off his Triple Stop album.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I just wanted to throw everything I had in the closet and just be like, I'm done. This man is beyond human with the way he plays guitar. I've never, man, I was playing a gig in Ohio with a dear friend of mine, Mr. Tim McDonald, piano player. We used to go out and do duo shows, before the pandemic hit. And I heard that Scotty was playing right down the street from us, but I could not break away because we played straight through.
Sure.
But I was so bummed that I was so close to him, and I couldn't get down the street to go meet him and shake his hand and just. But yeah, he's an icon. He really is, and I so love him as well. But I think Scotty kind of came on the scene for me after my love for Danny had been years, but prior to knowing about Scotty. But I would say Scotty Anderson now is the modern day Danny Gatton. in approach and technique, and how clean and precise he is, and fearless.
Yeah, I give him that because people always talk about, it's always Danny and people always mention Roy Buchanan, right? They're the great unknown Telecaster players.
Sure.
But the problem for me is I grew up being told by everybody that they're the great unknowns, and I have to ask, how unknown is somebody when everybody tells you they're the great unknown? Like,
well, true.
We know
true,
Danny,
man.
we know Roy,
And I mean,
but Scotty.
gosh, I think really, man, when you think about these guys, though, because I kind of wondered, I'm like, man, Scotty Anderson should be on every single TV show, they should have that man everywhere. And then I heard through the grapevine that he just really didn't care about that. He didn't care about becoming a huge star or a this, that, or the other. And I thought, well, good on him, man. He knows what he wants, and hey, you got to give the man that,
Yeah, no, that makes sense. That totally makes sense. I'm going to use this as a way to kind of get in our middle plug for our friends over at TrueFire. Because I mentioned Scotty because, of course, Scotty had a Hot Licks video. You had your own selection of Hot Licks videos.
Yeah.
But now you have TrueFire videos. So I'm going to bring my face up and say that this video is brought to you by our friends, not my friend, our friends over at TrueFire. Thanks to the guys at TrueFire for sponsoring this video. Go and check out some of Johnny's courses over on TrueFire's website. Maybe get the All Access Pass, link in the description. And here's a deal for you. You can use the code CLAY30 and get an extra 30% off. So go and check out some of Johnny's amazing courses and see what you can learn. And then I'm going to bring it back to Johnny.
Levi, I have to tell you, but I love everybody at TrueFire. They are absolutely incredible and allow teachers like myself to be us and to teach what we really feel we need to teach. They help you lay it out in a way that it fits their format and what they do, but to me, they are the absolute best in the world, man, at allowing us artists to deliver what we want to deliver in a teaching way.
Yeah.
And it's just, it's brilliant, man. They're all family to me. I love them all dearly. And yes, I have 5 courses with them now.
I'll bring them up on screen for people.
Yeah, thank you. The 10-gallon guitar course. Yeah.
Yeah. We've got a 10-gallon guitar, 10-gallon guitar rhythm, 10-gallon guitar shed to stage, 10-gallon guitar intros, outros, and turnarounds. And my guitar heroes, Johnny Hiland.
Yes, in fact, Shed to Stage is my most recent, and I love that, man, because I've been teaching in a different way these days, Levi, and I think it's because most guys come to me with a big bag of chops and a whole pile of scales, and they don't know how to connect any of it.
Sure.
And so for me, it's been really trying to simplify guitar players' minds to think less and to allow their brains to trust their hands more. So I did Shed to Stage in that kind of way, man, where people can free their mind up and go to a show and learn their songs and actually get on stage and have fun, communicate with their band and play good music.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I encourage everybody to pick up all of them. Now, granted, my favorite thus far is 10-gallon guitar, the first one.
Sure.
Because it is Johnny Hiland in a nutshell. All of my open string licks, double stops, steel bends, all that stuff is all, and of course, mixing country and rock and all that. It's all a part of that.
Yeah, go and check it out. Fabulous stuff. I mean, I've watched all of those. I've watched the Hot Lick stuff because who hasn't watched all the Hot Lick stuff? But you get better access to the TrueFire stuff. It's easier to get. Scrolling tabs, it's the way to do this.
Yeah, and the band tracks and all the, speeding up, slowing down things. And it's amazing, man, what they offer.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk guitars then. So I'm going to bring her back. I've been saying for years that the Telecaster is the greatest guitar.
Yes.
And I'm of the opinion that the Telecaster is the greatest guitar because it's the worst guitar. And by that, I mean it's a terrible body bolted to a terrible neck. No design on it. It's not comfortable. But because of that, to me, when I play the Telecaster, it feels like you accept all of that from the get-go. You're playing an imperfect instrument. Everything that came after the Telecaster was an attempt to improve upon the Telecaster. And when I play guitars that have things that are better than the Telecaster, I can't help but look at those things and go, well, wouldn't it be nice if it also had this? And wouldn't it be nice if it also had this? But with a Telecaster, with my 3-bridge saddles, it's never really that in tune. I feel that the Telecaster is the ultimate guitar because, for me, it helps me connect with music a little bit better. What are your thoughts on the Telecaster?
And you kind of have to fight the Telecaster to play it a bit more. Yeah. Well, I have to be honest, Levi. I grew up playing Telecasters, man, and you're right. There's something that players just connect with better on that guitar. It's like you said, it almost, you have to fight it to play it, and you have to bring the music out of it. And like you said, with all the imperfections it has, it's still to me the most workhorse guitar on planet Earth. It really is.
Yeah.
And but over the years, you know, I've had my day of playing Teles and then going to PRSs and then music bands. And what I realized is, you're right. Everybody creates a guitar that kind of branches off of something else. And now I'm with the Kiesel Guitar family and have been for the last 5 or 6 years. And I got to admit, brother, I'll be buried with one of these guitars. I am so in love with the Johnny Hiland JH6 model, which I'm holding in my hand. This is a tribute to Don Rich.
Oh, it's a full-on sparkle job.
Yeah, full-on sparkle Johnny model with a roasted maple neck.
It took this long for Don Rich's name to come up. That's disappointing.
Well, I know, man. And I got to say, we could go on a whole list of just country guitar greats, man, and we could talk for hours just on them. But yes, this guitar is, now the Johnny model normally comes in a raw tone. But what we did, though, Levi, on this guitar, brother, is like what you were talking about. I'm growing older. You know, I'm pushing 50. I'll be 48 next month. And I'm at that place in my life, man, where I want a little bit thinner neck.
Yep.
I want stainless steel frets because I bend so much that I ruin regular nickel frets.
Yeah.
And then it's like, man, I've had my 6-shooter single pickups out for a long time with Billy Magella of Electric City Pickups. Then I used those in the music bands and all that. You know, we released those pickups in 2009. But to be honest, man, we have those in the Johnny Model JH6 Kiesel. And of course, Jeff, what was so cool about this guitar, man, is he said, well, if we're going to use Strat-sized pickups and not use the ashtray bridge and all that, we moved the knobs up where a guy with a small pinky finger like I have could actually get to the volume knob and do swells and still switch my pickup selector underneath while I'm doing a volume swell. But what Jeff said was, well, man, you know, you're a bigger guy, so I definitely wanted the belly cut. But then Jeff said, well, why don't we put the arm contour as well? And so what we have done, and I mean, gosh, man, look at this heel too. The neck access is just incredible on this guitar. So all these little things, like what you mentioned, when you play a guitar that doesn't quite feel like an old Tele, you go, well, I wish it had this, and I want that. And so I had my chance to do that with Kiesel. And my goodness, my friend, I got to admit, I really wanted to get away from the ashtray bridges.
Okay.
And like you said, the 3 barrel saddles and all that. But what was funny is Kiesel just released the Retro Solo now, which is their version of a regular Telecaster. And man, I'm falling so in love with that now. But I think what Jeff has done, man, is he's given me the best of both worlds. I can now love my Johnny Hiland JH6 and play the Retro Solo too, which I just had Glazier put me a bender in. So I'm just amazed, though, at the quality and craftsmanship of the Kiesel family. And on top of that, man, they are a family. So I definitely feel like I have a home, which I've been searching for my entire career. And to be honest with you, man, these guitars are so comfortable to play and so fun. And I'm just so proud to be with them. I'm proud of my model. I'm proud of what I have with Kiesel, and I'm blessed.
Yeah, I find all of that stuff really interesting to hear, because you talk about the things in there that you've changed from the Tele design, and people often misunderstand what it is that I'm saying about a Telecaster. I'm not saying a Telecaster should be exactly as Leo made them, because actually some people notice this, some people don't. I'll bring it up for people. So mine, I do the same modification on all my Telecasters. Right, I immediately take the control plate and I just flip it around. It's just flipped around. I should be super clear on that. No wiring's changed. This is the tone knob still. And when the pickup selector points this way, this is still the bridge pickup. I just do that because you mentioned the swells. I like to be able to get swells on my tone knob, and that's a nice easy way to be able to get that. So it's a modification. Like I like doing that on all of my Telecasters. It's a simple modification. Anybody could do it on any stock Telecaster. I'm not saying I tried it. Go on.
I tried it, Levi. It didn't work for me, brother. I couldn't. I guess I was more selecting, different pickups.
Yeah.
And really, I could never volume swell the volume anyway. So, and I love doing the Danny Gatton tone control swells and stuff too. But there was no way, man, that a guy with a pinky that small could reach all that. I just couldn't. So now with the Johnny model, man, we move the knobs at a comfortable spot, and I've got a 5-way in there that allows me. So basically, in the Johnny model, position 1, 3, and 5 are like your stock T style.
Yep.
And then position 2 is your second position Strat, which gives you that Albert Lee and Steve Wariner tone. And then when you go to position 4, it's just the middle pickup by itself.
Oh, okay.
So I can do like Stevie Ray rhythms, and then when I want to go play the solo, I just flip one click and I'm into my neck pickup.
Yeah, nice.
So yeah, that's why I did the Johnny model the way I did. And you're right, it's just making the guitar a little bit more. Well, it just cosmetically feels better to me and allows me to do more than I want to do.
But you've got enough experience on the original Telecaster to know what modifications, what changes you like, and
years.
Okay, let's talk music then. So you have more albums than anybody could ever possibly listen to. That's not true. That's you can listen to them. Please do go and listen to them. I'm a huge fan of your self-titled album because, as I mentioned, it's got Gatton to it on it, which is fabulous. You then moved over to Shrapnel. You were a Shrapnel, right?
Well, actually, I had an album in between there. Loud and Proud was in between. So I did the self-titled record with Vi in 04, and then in 06, beginning of 07, I released Loud and Proud, which has Honky Tonk Nighttime Man on it, and a bunch of. But that's kind of really where I said, okay, Peter Collins produced the first record, and Vi executive produced, and they really tried to make me commercial.
Yep.
Where I would be played on radio, and so I feel like a part of me is missing in that album. So with the second album, Loud and Proud, man, I wrote virtually everything on there with the exception of the cover tunes I did. And then my buddy Keith Driver wrote a song called I Never on that album. But to be honest, man, that to me was my breakout album of here's all of me poured out in a studio for you. And then, of course, Shrapnel came along in 2011. Then after the Shrapnel record, I went and did an album called Standing Strong. And then I've now since had a gospel record, a Christmas album, and Chatham Sessions Volume 1.
I mean, you're on the country scene. It would be against the law if you didn't have a Christmas album. That's just how that works.
That's right. Well, and I love one of my favorite albums of all time is Danny Gatton and Joey DeFrancesco, Relentless.
Fabulous album.
Oh man, it's one of my faves of all time.
Yeah.
So I teamed up with my engineer buddy, Mr. Blake Padilla, who was one of the best background vocalists you'd ever heard, but also an amazing B3 player and piano player in Nashville. And he now has gone home as well. He lives back out in Oregon now. But anyway, one of my last projects I did in Nashville before Kimmy and I moved to Chatham, Virginia, was we finished up the gospel album, which I'm so proud of. And on that record, Brent came on, and Tom Bresch and Jack Pearson and John Jorgensen and so many wonderful people. Phil Kagi come on that album with me. But anyway, Brent and I got to do a version of I Saw the Light, and that was so fun. We did it chicken picking, and it was fun. But then Blake and I teamed up and did this Christmas album where it was B3, bass drums, and electric guitar, man, and just really did it like the Relentless album. But then again, wanting to do something like that, man, I'm like, there is no way on God's earth I'm going to try to create an album that will stand up to Relentless. So we're going to have to make it Christmas or something different. So that's why we did it that way, man. But yeah, you're right. We had to do a cool Christmas record. Yeah.
Relentless is truly an exceptional album, and it made me realize how powerful the B3 is.
Yes.
I have a B3 over here. I bought myself a B3. Well, it's actually a C3. And I've started playing Hammond organ in the last year. And I love it. It's such a great sound, and it works so well with guitar.
You're quite a piano player yourself there, buddy.
I've been playing piano for 2 years now. I still got a lot more practice to go before I'm a piano player.
Well, and it's funny that you mentioned that because since moving to Chatham, Virginia, I had people say, "Oh, well, Johnny's retired now," and I'm like, "No, I'm not retired. What I've done, man, is teamed up with my buddy Kenny Thurman, even just before COVID hit, and he put together the best blind man studio a guy could ever want." And so now I'm spending my time in the studio doing full band tracking for people where I'm playing all the instruments myself.
Fantastic.
So drums, bass, keyboards, banjo, whatever they need on their track, all the electric guitars and all that too.
Yeah.
So I have really, really jumped into the studio world more so now than ever, and engineering.
Yeah.
And so the Chatham Sessions Volume 1 was me really creating an album and picking up all these instruments I hadn't played in a long while, and while learning how to engineer and put a record together. So Chatham Sessions Volume 2 is fixing to come out, man, and I've gotten a lot better in the last 3 or 4 years, and so this new album I'm really excited about, and but yeah, really jumped out of the playing live realm and went into more studio stuff, and what a blessing that was right before the pandemic just pummeled the world.
Yeah. Like live music it's something that I haven't delved into in such a long time because I've made a living with transcription and being online. But when I met my partner, she's a professional singer, and then COVID hit, and she just lost. She had no income for 2 years, not a single. I think I reassured her. I was like, well, it's just a war of attrition. We've got to stick with this. Live music will come back, and we need to make sure that we're still here when it comes back, because lots of other people will give up along the way. But even then, I think over 2 years, she really got that feeling of live music's amazing. I love live music, but also at the same time, are people ever going to what's the right word for this? Be comfortable with live music, be comfortable going to gigs again after this. Is it something we can rely on? Unfortunately, certainly for an income, it's a terrifying prospect for me, relying on the idea of live music.
Well, and I got to admit, man, there's so many people that email me on a daily basis, man, when are you coming to Denver? When are you coming to Florida? And God, man, I'd love to say that the Johnny Hiland Band will be back out on the road, but I can't say that right now because venues can't pay the same.
Yeah.
It's expensive to take a 5-piece band out on the road again. It was expensive before, but now it's even worse, And so I really don't know where the live music thing or how it will come back to where it was before, or if it ever will come back to where it was before.
Yeah.
So I'm really blessed, man, to be able to have this life in Virginia now that's not really away from, I still have all my producer friends in Nashville and people I worked with there. But now, I mean, with technology, they can email me tracks and I can play guitar on them and send them back. And so it's really enabled me to keep going.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm fearful of where live music will go down the line. I hope I can get back out there, but then again, man, I went through a bout of having hand and arm troubles for a while, ended up with some neuropathy going on. And so for a while, man, I literally had to switch to a thumb pick because I could not hold my V pick anymore.
The plan was, of course, to plug my friend Vinny over at VPix.
I love him, man. He's family to me.
Always VPix, and I've been playing those things for about 14 years now, and I love
Tell
them.
me you have a Johnny pick though, Levi.
I have Johnny. I have a box of picks. This thing here is full of picks.
Nice.
There's every single V pick that's ever been made. Vinny sends them all to me to ask what I think.
Nice.
Yeah, I love.
Well, Vinny is family to me, man. And as far as a flat pick goes, there is no better than V picks.
Yeah.
That's the truth. And and I've loved, like I said, I told Vinny, man, when I started having the hand issues, I said, brother, I'm sorry, I've got to change to a thumb pick, but I said I will never stop loving you and V picks, man. They're just incredible. They're amazing picks. And gosh, man, even when I started my hand troubles, he gave me an Insanity, and he was like, "Here, man, use this. It'll help widen your grip and help you, So Vinny, we tried everything with V-Picks, man, to get that pain to stop and whatever was affecting me. But unfortunately, I had to switch over to a thumb pick, which Tom Bresch and Tommy Emmanuel helped me do, and Noki Edwards, and it's been a transition for me, man. But I'm actually loving it, and I do agree now that when you transition to a thumb pick, you'll never go back.
You're in good company, Brent, he's a thumb pick guy, and of course Scotty Anderson, thumb pick guy. So
I'm still trying to pick up all their techniques, man. It's tough.
Okay, so let's close up by talking about, you mentioned technology and you've also mentioned teaching, so we can assume that people can have lessons with you.
Yes.
How do they go about doing that, Johnny?
Levi, I'll just give everybody my personal email, because anything you need to know about me or you want to know from me, I've told every fan on Facebook. I do a Facebook Live every other Sunday. at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Johnny Hiland Official. And I have just poured my personal email out, man, and I answer every question myself. And I love it, man. So if you are inquiring about lessons, or you want me to play on a track for you, or do a full track for you, or his brother Kenny Thurman and I do everything, man. We track the full songs and mix. We get it. Kenny mixes and masters it, and we send it back to you. So, I mean, of anything that you want to know about me or anything I can help you do, Hiland007@comcast.net. Hiland 007, and I didn't pick that. Comcast gave me that. Hiland007@comcast.net. That'll get you connected with me.
There you go. Get in touch with Johnny. Go and send him an email and tell him that he needs to start releasing tab books for all of his albums, because I know a guy.
Well, I'll tell you, man, it's been, tab is something, man, that a legally blind guy has just never been able to read or get into.
Yeah.
I have such a massive appreciation for it. And yes, man, I love seeing my music notated. It's incredible. It really is. But I'm still going, that piece of sheet music. What does that say? So, I mean, it's very hard, man. But I absolutely have such a massive respect for guys who can do that. To be able to transcribe, man, that's impressive. It really is.
It is a really weird one, right? Because it seems like a silly thing to say, seeing as I make a lot of my living doing that transcription side of things. But you're in the better position. Your ears are rock solid. I want to say to every single person that buys a transcription from me, I want to say to them, you don't need this. You know that if you work on those ears, you'll never need me again. I'll never work again. And I would prefer that. I would prefer it if I never worked again, but you guys all had great ears, because transcribing has given me great ears.
Man.
So
yeah, you are quite incredible, my friend. I must admit. And I must admit, while I'm on in front of everybody with you, Levi, I must say, but I have enjoyed your show for a long time. And your teaching style, man, is a lot like mine in the respect that you give people what they need to know. Yeah. And I think that's just fantastic. And it's not, I have a lot of guitar teachers who are very angry with me right now, because I'm not teaching out of the theoretical mind. I'm teaching, let's play music. Let's really just dive into connectability of a major scale and finding melody and what notes make your ear, make your ears feel good.
Yeah.
What notes ring the best? It make you feel like a good back scratch, So I teach in that vein myself, man, and I really love what you do with your online shows, brother. So I'm so proud for you. And,
I spent so long doing the theory thing and trying to be that guy and trying to learn to play that way and trying to think that way. And I learned all of that stuff, and I realized the more I thought about great bluegrass musicians, that wasn't how they learned to play. And there was something getting in the way of playing music. There was something stopping me from being Danny Gatton. I just wanted to be Danny Gatton, And you mentioned that Reckless Abandon. When you think of Danny playing, and for me, my favorite Danny stuff is like the Redneck Jazz Explosion records.
Oh, mine too. I love every Danny record.
Yeah,
I do.
But
those... Relentless is just one I spin over and over. I can't stop listening.
Yeah. I mean, of course, you put him with Joey, and I'm going to be really happy. But at the same time, having that love of country, being able to hear him play with steel guitar I love hearing a steel guitar player, and you don't get much better than Buddy Emmons. So,
no.
And on those records, it's just pure fire that he's playing, and you just know that he's not thinking about any of it, and trying to work out, well, how does somebody go from thinking about everything to not thinking about anything?
I'm glad you mentioned Redneck Jazz, Levi, because really, what Danny really did for me on those records was he would do the most amazing jazz line, and then he would just instantly put like the intro to Mama Tried behind a jazz lick.
Yeah.
And he'd be doing this in the middle of a swing.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, man, that's awesome. So just to share a little story with you, I was playing with G3 at the Ryman with Satriani, Steve Vai, and Yngwie. And we were doing Rockin' in the Free World, the old Neil Young tune.
Yeah.
And I put the Mama Tried lick in the middle, and the whole place just went boom. I mean, but I mean, that is a Danny Gattonism to me, man. That is something that Danny could do so well and effortless, and not, like you said, he's not thinking of anything.
Yeah.
the music is just pouring out of every fiber of his being.
Yeah.
And so that's the Redneck Jazz Explosion albums are just killer, man. They really are.
For me, next level teaching is trying to get your students in touch with that, trying to have the things that the playing become more subconscious, where they don't think about scales or arpeggios. It's, what do I want to hear here? What sound, as you put it, what's going to give you the good back scratch?
Yeah. Well, and I mean, it's funny because I even teach kids that I call Weedly players.
Yeah.
They're arpeggio kings, and they play all the Yngwie stuff, and then they're like, man, I really, really want to learn country, chicken picking. And I'm like, okay, lick number 1.
Yeah.
They're like, that's it? I'm like, yeah, that's what I want you to start with.
Yeah.
And where did I get that? Major scale. Well, yeah, but it's Mixolydian. No, I'm only just using the flatted 7 because that's what feels good to me.
Yeah.
I'm not thinking Mixolydian,
Yeah.
So you're just trying to, you're right, man. You're trying to develop people's ear while showing them fun on the instrument and teaching them something at the same time.
Yeah, you don't ask what scale do I play here. You ask yourself, what would Don Rich play?
Exactly. Yeah, man. Or my goodness, man. All right, here's a perfect look at that. For an example, you and I love Brent.
Yes.
We love Scotty Anderson. We love Danny Gatton. But how do you morph between guys who are what I call the country shredders, like Scotty and Brent and Danny? How do you go back and grab onto a simple Don Rich lick or a Roy Nichols lick?
Oh, yeah.
And use the simplicity behind that in thinking like Brent or Danny. So I guess what I'm saying is I've learned over the years, people kept saying to me in Nashville in my 20s, I can't wait to hear you when you're 40. And I laughed. I was like, my gosh, I'm in the woodshed studying my tail off right now, and I'm trying to get better and better and better. But the older I'm getting, Levi, the more I realize, brother, that music is music. Yeah. And it doesn't all have to be 90 knots and no smoke. You can actually play you can make 4 notes have more meaning than 400.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about music now, man. It's just, So yeah, I'm back into the Ray Price stuff and early shuffle stuff and Western swing and just loving chromatic.
It's
stuff
an
like
alien
that.
concept. I think it's an alien concept that guitar players forget. Mel Haggard wasn't. He was a great guitar player, but he wasn't a great guitar player in the way that people watching this show are going to think what a great guitar player is. But he was a great guitar player. He spoke to people who didn't play the guitar, and that's the best thing that you can possibly do. Speak to people that don't play your instrument. My gig now is I play in a soul band, and I'm out playing to roomfuls of people with a great singer, and it's awesome, and I just pretend to be Danny Gat, and I put solos everywhere, and no one cares about the solos. They're just there for the songs, and they're just there for the things that they can relate to, not that was really clever. I love all of the clever stuff. I'm going to keep pretending to be Danny, don't get me wrong, but you can't play country music without knowing where it came from, and you have to appreciate. You mentioned Roy Nichols. You can't love country music without knowing Roy Nichols licks. You can't.
Well, and I think what was hilarious about country guitar, though, Levi, is you start out with Jimmy Bryant.
Yeah,
and the first level A endorser for Fender playing a Teles.
Yeah.
God, man, what a beast!
Yeah, he could play. That's a different.
Oh level. My goodness! Yeah. And so then you morph into James Burton.
Yeah.
And then you. But then you kind of go through that phase of Roy Nichols and Don Rich and, even Waylon with the phaser tone. Yeah. Waylon was not a great guitar player, but he said something unique.
Which made him a great guitar player.
Yeah, man. And so, you're right, though. A lot of these players really don't get the credit they deserve for bringing a whole different approach and sound that might have been simpler than what we know. Because we want to be Brent, Danny, and Scotty, and Jimmy Bryant, guys like that. But I mean, there is a spot in country history where guitar playing did not have to be difficult to be effective.
Yeah.
And heartfelt. And I think the bottom line, man, is are you playing something that suits the song well? And I guess being a session player all these years, man, I learned that. Yeah, we like your fast stuff, and that's cool, man. But does it really fit in here?
Yeah.
Does it really fit this song well?
Who is it for?
Yeah. Is this you just wigging out on yourself, or is this something you're really trying to state in this song? So It is, I think the biggest thing I can press to everybody watching is always play to the song. It doesn't matter how much technique you have or how many licks in your bag you have, and how great you get in your own mind, how fast you are, how much speed you have, agility, technique. Melody is key.
Mm.
If we don't have a melody, then we have nothing to solo over, period. So, I mean, really, I hate to get that simplistic about it, but that is the truth. Without a melody, we have nothing.
I'll drop an even further truth bomb, and this doesn't really apply to you because you're the king of instrumentals. But to me, I'm never more important than the singer. As a guitar
you're right. You're right. Yeah, man, you start walking on that singer, buddy, you're going to get fired.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, and we don't want that, man. And so you're right. It is about learning how to. Well, I'm going to take it back to the bluegrass days. When I was a kid, and just learning, I had a guitar player, named Phil Gallup, who was the gentleman who taught me how to play guitar, essentially, my first 7 chords. And because I started out playing like Jeff Healey with the guitar flat on my lap using my thumb. So Phil taught me my first 7 chords, and my dad bought me an Ovation Celebrity, man, with the rounded back so I could turn the guitar. But the funny thing was, I remember, man, after hearing Skaggs play the Bangor Auditorium, and my dad started taking me to a gentleman named Bill Pierce in Bangor, Maine. He worked at Northern Kingdom Music as a teacher. And man, he was a GIT grad, loved Yngwie, was a shred head, whammy bar, Van Halen stuff. And I walk in and say, hey, man, I want to play Highway 40 Blues, or I want to play Heartbroke. But it was funny because he taught me in the way that enabled me to realize, okay, kid, yeah, it's great that you can play the intro to Mama Tried, but now I want you to go home and learn every single note Merle Haggard sang.
Yeah.
And then thinking back to my bluegrass days now, as I was singing songs on the stage and my band was playing behind me, Bill was actually filling little licks around my vocal that he would use in his solo. So, yeah, you never step on the vocalist. But on top of that, man, bluegrass really helped me to understand where the instrument sits behind the vocal and how to use it.
Yeah. And
not to overstep your bounds with that. So sometimes it's a genre you don't even realize is going to help you the most.
Yeah. But sweet. So I am going to end this now by saying a huge thank you to all of our wonderful viewers. Big thank you to my wonderful supporters over on Patreon. If you want to support the channel, there's a link in the description. It keeps the lights on, and these lights are expensive, especially when the electricity prices are as high as they are now. Also, big thank you to our friends over at TrueFire. Please do go and check out the link in the description and check out some of Johnny's courses, and of course you can get 30% off with the code CLAY30, which is absolutely awesome. Yeah, my credits are still rolling. It's a long list, so thank you to all these names. Johnny, anything that you would like to add to the wonderful people?
Well, man, I just want to thank you again for having me on, Levi, and I thank everybody out there watching who still goes and buys guitar records and TrueFire courses and keep supporting. We need to keep guitar music alive, folks. We really do. And on top of that, I want to thank all my amazing endorsers, because without them, I would not be who I am today, as far as their support and how they take care of me, and my amazing band and brother Kenny Thurman and all the studio support as well. I'm just a very blessed man, and I want to thank the good Lord too for just giving me this gift to play music, man. And we just need to keep passing the love around.
I feel like the only thing that I can say there to end the show is amen. Thanks very much.
There you go, brother.